Have the roll call, please.
Mayor Browning,
Here.
Vice Mayor Ronco,
Here.
Councilor Wilson,
Here.
Councilor Ruggiero,
Here.
Councilor Yang.
Here. If you'd all stand for the pledge, remain standing for the invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Again, Heavenly Father, we ask for wisdom and guidance. We ask for stability. Let us remember that we're all neighbors and we all live here together. So give us a great meeting tonight. We pray in your name. Amen. All right. Any additions or corrections to the agenda? If not, I've got one I would like to add. It's right under 7A. We have a resident here that has a small business land use issue. So if it's all right with everybody, can we add 7A? What's that, 7A? I don't think we have any resolutions, so, we could, it's not an ordinance. No, probably that would be, well, it would be the same, basically the same thing. So put it as 5B.
Yeah.
No, it's not a public hearing.
Alright, put it on A.
Okay, that was, nothing there. Okay, we have a motion to accept the agenda as modified. Second by Ron. 70. Further discussion? It's a small business land use issue. Any further comments? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed, same sign. Entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda. Okay, we have a motion by Jim. Second? Second by Ryan. Any discussion on the consent agenda? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed, same sign. Okay, we have some presentations. Ann Stewart, and this is Ron Gerald doing it. Okay.
Good evening.
Hello.
Hi, my name is Anna Stewart. I'm the manager of the Drowning Prevention Coalition of Palm Beach County, and from my understanding, you did receive some information with regards to our organization prior to this council meeting. But just briefly, our job is to educate the 1.3 million people in Palm Beach County about water safety and drowning prevention, and we just have an organization of 2 people. So 2 people, 1.3 million. We have our work cut out for us. But our primary purpose, in addition to educating the public, is we also provide free swimming lessons for underprivileged and special needs children ages 3 through 12. Because public-private partnerships are a key component to our success, we have partnered with the Palm Beach County Fire Rescue Volunteer Battalion because they are a nonprofit organization. Our organization, we are government, we are county-run. So in order for us to raise additional funds for our free swim program, we needed to partner with a nonprofit. The reason we chose a volunteer battalion is A, the Drowning Prevention Coalition, we are actually located in Palm Beach County Fire Rescue Headquarters. The fire marshal is my supervisor. And the volunteer battalion, believe it or not, they have a boat. And they go in the intercoastal and make sure that the waterways are safe in addition to the sheriff's office. And part of boating and water safety is, goes hand in hand, so we felt that it was a wonderful fit. So every year we have an event to raise money for both of our organizations. And we're looking for volunteers and we're looking for participants.
Well,
We've asked Anna here tonight. In the past, we've given a donation to the Drowning Coalition combined with the Fire Rescue Volunteers. A brief thing about the Drowning Coalition, they received a state award this year, award from the state for an outstanding job that they've done. Volunteers, I know them personally. I've seen them, what they do with Palm Beach County Fire Rescue is when we have a fire, a major fire, a big fire, they've got any type of equipment, Wildcats, different things, but they come and they perform the overhaul, allowing the professionals to go back to the fire station and recoup for another call. Could be a heart attack, could be anything, or another fire. The volunteers, they do this for free, and hopefully some of them will end up getting hired on with Palm Beach County Fire Rescue. The Drowning Coalition has done great things for the western communities. So to cut it short, I'm making a motion that we do the same thing as we did a couple years ago, that we give them a donation of $500 towards their nonprofit organization.
All right, Ron has made a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, second by Ryan. Discussion. Jim, anything to say?
Where are we on our donation budget?
I think we're something at like maybe 60%. I think we have everything.
Comments, Ryan?
I think it's a good organization. I think it's very important for in this area. We have a lot of lakes and canals. I know just around my place, I have kids fishing and all sorts of stuff being around the area. So it'd be very good to have awareness about that, especially with younger kids.
Okay. Ryan, anything else? Ron? Okay, Tom? All right, yeah. Yes.
Just to that person by Casimir Rocket, it looks like we have about $4,209 left in that account as of December, which is roughly 21.
The only thing I want to say is that we need to be very cautious. I think everybody, hopefully everybody in Los Angeles Groves donates to causes that they believe in. So I don't feel, that it's our place in a lot of ways, that something like this can benefit our whole community. But at the same time, we've got to be careful in donating for people out of their tax money, because I know I've got charities that I donate to, and on my own, but anyway, we have to see. All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you for your support.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for your work. Okay, next is Mark Perry.
Your Honor, while they're getting up and getting their information ready, as you know, when we recently passed the PUD ordinance, one of the requirements that was passed was that prior to the submittal of the formal PUD application, the applicant should make a presentation to the town council to discuss PUD applications, its implications in the town, and basically that is the property. So this is the first step, is moving forward with the presentation.
Mayor, members of council, my name is Marty Carey. With me this evening is Bradley Miller, who is the planning consultant for this parcel of land. As Mr. Cuddy has just indicated, this is actually one of the first two PUDs, or maybe the only two PUDs I think that we're going to see in town. The ordinance was pretty much adopted for these two parcels of land. Speaking specifically to this parcel here with the northeast corner of the southern and the Simon property, and these two parcels have been tracking together for probably the better part of the past 5 years through the comprehensive planning process. We've had a number of public workshops and hearings, and initially we were of the impression that since we had so many workshops previously, that the workshop required by the PUD ordinance wouldn't apply to us, because you'd probably seen enough of us. And we're going to try to keep this brief. We have a PowerPoint presentation of probably about 6 or 8 slides that will mostly be from the standpoint of just reintroducing you historically to the county amendment that we had presented to you, and the final one that you approved, the concept plan. to show you essentially that what we're proposing in terms of the rezoning of PUD is essentially almost identical to the concept plan in terms of actual square footages and acreages of different uses. It is identical. So having said that, I'll let Bradley take us through to the next slide. As you can see right here, this first one was kind of a locational slide. This slide here is the concept plan that you approved when the comprehensive plan amendment was approved for this site. Basically showing what had been the subject of a great deal of discussion. The area on the north side along Connecting Canal is a 300-foot buffer that's been much discussed, even through the State College application process. We have substantial buffering along Sea Road. We have substantial buffering along our property owner to the west, along that entire reverse L-shaped parcel, and then on Southern Boulevard. Now, if we go to the next slide, we'll show you that we've retained all that. You can see that's all in there, and that little stripe that you see going through the green area, that's the proposed equestrian trail that will go through there, which again is consistent with all of the discussions and the feedback that we had from you all during the comprehensive planning process. The lower portion basically is all of what we would propose to be the retail area. I think that area is about 34 acres of retail, which is below Tangerine. Tangerine kind of is the northern border of that retail section, and the only change really that you'll see in there, if you could flip back, Bradley, is that we had to relocate Tangerine in order to pick up Tangerine where it had been relocated to the west in the design of the State College site and the commercial connected, which you'll hear from Mr. Ledlonic next. They had changed the location of Tangerine, so we adapted to that so that we could meet Tangerine coming out of their property and make everything consistent and ended over at Sea Road. The areas in blue are proposed for professional office. The circle in green basically is an idea that we've been playing with from a planning concept, that this would be kind of a town center type of a use where, you know, different local functions could be held there. It's a large green area. It's susceptible to a lot of uses. We're actually looking for some input from you all relative to that. We think it's the kind of thing that would lend itself to the community for some different types of community usages. I think, Bradley, let's take a couple more slides. Oh, I did want to point out, I mean, floor area ratios have been a really big thing in all your discussions out here, and we've made a concerted effort. We've got a lot of land to work with here. We've made a concerted effort to bring our floor area ratio as low as we could get, and we're down at 0.07. Some areas are at 0.06. And I think that that's really consonant with what you've been trying to achieve and trying to keep everything at a low key. Basically, the only other slides I think that we have here, and I can go back one more slide there, showing that part with Bradley that shows the two different site plans, the concept plan and this plan. And as we put this up so that you could see, and this is a good comparison of what you approved at the comprehensive planning level up in the top left corner and what we're proposing down below. So that you can see that we've tried to stay faithful through the whole process to what you've seen consistently throughout the process. I think if we could go to the last slide, Bradley, we're about finished. Planners love to do that, see things floating in. This is kind of a concept that actually Mike Odell had put together for you during the comprehensive planning process, showing how Tangerine would look, you know, give you a little bit of a feel for what we're looking at in there. And this is a concept of the large buffer area with the equestrian trail going through it. With that, I'd really like to just kind of open up to the council and or to the public to see if anybody has any questions or comments. At the present time, we really we haven't sold any parcels, we haven't leased any parcels. We've had a number of part of our submittal to Mr. Lefton and Mr. Petney has been a market analysis. The market analysis has been very strong. There's according to the market experts, there's plenty of need for commercial in this particular area here. I know one of the comments that's been made in the past from some members of the public that, there are empty shopping centers. Well, and that is true. And the market study that we submitted reflects that there are 3 centers. I think 2 of them are in Royal Palm Beach that are pretty old. We've addressed those. So the reality is that that's the problem. They're old and they're dated, etc. There are 10 centers that we surveyed. Of the 10 we surveyed, 7 of them are at maximum occupancy. I mean, they really have no vacancies. There are 3 that have a lot of vacancies. But if you look at them individually and say, well, why are they vacant? There's a real explanation for that. So we think there's a good demand for this. I think you'll hear that comment echoed by Mr. Lalonic as they go through the process. But as yet, even though we've had a lot of inquiries, we haven't done any leasing yet. We've just basically got an open map. With that, I have no further comments.
Okay. Council members, comments?
I'd like to say that I am pleased to see that you left the buffer the way it is, and so long as it proceeds like that, it looks good to me. I'm very happy.
Thank you.
Yeah, John?
Mr. Perry, I like that second layout better than the first, especially with the town center.
Yeah.
But we thought that was a good concept. We thought that would be well received.
Is it, do you think it'd be consistent with like a green market or something like that?
I think that's good. Great possibility for something like that.
How big of an area?
It's, I think it's 3.6 acres. Pretty good size.
Right.
It's nice to see how this project has transitioned from where it was initially to where it is now. I think it's definitely a lot more along the lines of what we were thinking of, and I look forward to seeing what's going to happen. It looks good right now, especially that, like Tom said, the buffer and the horse trail incorporating that, and the large green space in there. We didn't ask for that. You guys put that in. I think that's a great idea. I'm sure we could figure out how to utilize that space.
Okay. Jim?
The change from the original as far as access from southern, that's changed, or am I imagining?
Well, we had 3 access points on Southern previously. They were pretty much all right in, right out, and right now that's pretty much what they are also. But when we came up with this concept of the town center thing, we needed to have an access point right there. We thought at that point.
Okay, so your access points are off of D?
There's
D to southern, center by the green area,
Yep.
to the right?
Correct. We have one at B and Tangerine. We have one at that straight line just east of B, right there.
Okay.
We have one at the center, and then there's a small one right there that's right in, right out.
Okay. The distribution, it seemed, of the access points, instead of being across the property, southern border, have been moved a little to the left. I mean, I see, identify the access point, southern to the left, center, kind of, center being moved a little center. But I don't seem to really get a flavor for the right hand, unless that's there and I just can't tell in the picture. So the right hand, you see the right hand entrance way,
Right, is that the one you're talking where the arrow is, just west of C?
and I'm thinking further off to the right. If I look at the other top image, is there not a roadway that's kind of on the eastern border of the property? Am I reading that correctly?
Yeah, there's a
Right
road,
there.
that's
To the right. Move to the right.
Yeah, that C road is on the east border of the property.
So what I was just asking, yeah, is that the same access that we really have?
No, our center access right now has moved a little bit from the way it was before on the concept.
That I got, and the right-hand access is still there,
Correct.
way over, I mean.
Is there any change on C roads along there or anything
No.
like that?
No.
That's what I'm saying.
Is there any, where would any turn lanes be?
The only thing that C, we're just following the natural alignment of C that's right there right now, that's always been there.
Right, and paving it up to Pineapple, or what's the plan there?
I think that's really going to be a question for discussion with you all as to what you'd like to see. I mean, I know there's been a lot of discussion relative to what's east of C and everything in some of the meetings over the past several months. I think we're looking for some feedback from you as to how you'd like to see that treated there. We don't see that as a main type of entrance or anyway, but it's there and we had to deal with it, just like we did previously.
Can we go back to my question?
What do you think about the connectivity?
Excuse me, Tom, I haven't finished and kind of jumped into this. On the left-hand upper corner,
I'm having trouble following.
yeah, I'm trying to find it. We go up to the left-hand image, left-hand upper
Up here?
corner. Yes, just point out to me where your access points are there to the property.
We've got one here, and then you have C Road over here, and
Okay,
then
and
this
then
is
B Road
B
over-
here.
Okay. Now, in the new design, you have B road access,
We have B here,
all right,
we
then you
have
have that
this one, we
access.
have this one
You
here,
have one in the middle,
and then we have this one here, and then there's a small one right here.
right,
And
but
then
you don't
C.
really count the right side, right-hand corner as an access like you did in the first.
No, we're really
Okay.
not.
That's what I'm trying to understand. Sometimes when you change
No,
an image and change the colors, and it may not say what it looks to say.
no.
So we have, basically, the left half of the property has the access points in it all of a sudden,
Correct.
relatively.
Correct.
Correct, thank you.
And building on what Jim was saying there, do you need the connectivity of the Tangerine to C Road in what you're doing there, or the access from C Road to the property, or is it possible to just?
Well, clearly, we need to be able to get access to that eastern portion that we have there, you know, but I think we can work with you. I don't know what your plans are for C, but I think we can work with you along there. I mean, we just need some feedback from you. I mean, from a planning standpoint, we had to deal with what we had, you know, and we just kind of picked up from where we left off.
Well, as Jim pointed out, it was a much more major thoroughfare before the way you had it drawn, and now it's sort of like an afterthought.
Right.
Do you know about any?
We'll certainly take a look at that. I mean, one of the things that I'm not sure what will happen with it is, but I think in some discussions between our traffic engineers and DOT, the question was raised at that center point there where the town center is, the possibility of a median cut there and being able to have a turn-in, eastbound turn-in there at that point. And that may well be possible. All we want to do is make sure that we have good traffic circulation with this project. You know, and people are gonna wanna be able to get from Southern up to Tangerine, they're gonna wanna come from Tangerine down into the project. But as to whether we needed to go all the way to Sea Road, I think we can work with you on that. And I know that's been an issue, but, you know, I've been trying to follow that.
Are you aware of any turn lanes that are required on on Southern the way it is, or just the way it is?
That's the way it is. And the only last comment is, and no offense to Bradley, who I work with a great deal, is that it's really kind of sad that Mike Odell, who spent so much time on this project, isn't here to see it through to its final conclusion. Because he put a lot of time and effort into this, and we worked pretty hard.
One last question.
Sure.
Can you give me an estimated size of that green circle?
3.6 acres.
3.6? So I could take a 3.6 acre circle, create one, and that's about what I would expect.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay, and the only question I've got, before we were talking some specific issues as far as assisted living, and right now, you really don't have.
We're still, you know, that was part of our approval, was a 128-bed assisted living facility, and that's what you see up in that purple area up there. You know, we're still showing that. That's what our comp plan amendment was for.
Yeah.
You know, and that'll continue to be there. I mean, whether or not that proves to be the case or not is really going to be a question of market demand. I know there were pros and cons out here relative to that issue. There were some people that felt that that was a good thing because you've got people that are aging here in town that would like to stay here in town, and you know, that's an opportunity.
All right, Marge Herzog. And that's the only public comment part I've got so far. If anybody else has got a public comment.
Same subject, Howard?
Marge Herzog, A Road. Some of my concerns are the 120 beds in the assisted living facility. That means 128 voters, and I know all along the council has said that they did not want to create a voting block. When I asked for consideration for a senior living area, I was talking about something like Strathmore Gate, where you have individual living units. If you're going to go to 128 livable units, I'd rather see something like Strathmore Gate with the one-story structures where you have 3 or 4 units hooked together, spread out among the trees. I really don't like an assisted living type facility. That was not what I had in mind when I presented it back during the visioning. Another question I have is, when we were talking during the visioning, we talked about no commercial north of Tangerine. Well, it looks like a lot of that commercial development, the blue, that's north of Tangerine. And so was a lot of the other stuff that was approved before. So I question, you know, where are we with that ordinance? And what happens in the future when someone else comes forward with something north of Tangerine? Are we going to say, because of this project now, they're entitled to it too? The other thing is the number of accesses onto Southern Boulevard. When Mr. Perry presented the project between E Road and Loxahatchee Avenue, the DOT said in only and use the existing roads that are there. Don't try to come back out onto Southern Boulevard. DOT turned it down, flat, down in Fort Lauderdale. We went down and met with them. So when you're looking at these, they're only going to be ins, according to the Department of Transportation, as far as I would say. And getting back to that project between E Road and Loxahatchee Avenue, they're presenting this as something that's direly needed in our area. Well, where is that project that was approved years ago on Southern Boulevard between E and Loxahatchee Avenue? We were told that the economy doesn't call for the development to come forward. 2 banks, a couple of medical buildings. So I'm wondering, how much more commercial do we really need? Thank you.
Thank you, Marcia. Howard?
Howard Warren, E Road. Marge kind of touched on what I was going to bring up. Now again, when the guy came from the DOT years ago as a courtesy call, basically letting us know we really didn't have a choice, they said that they were going to limit severely the access to and from Southern Boulevard when they wind up 8-laning Southern Boulevard, whenever that does happen. And we were basically told that roads like D Road might not even be included. So I think what needs to be done is this whole plan has to be looked at from an angle of, in the future, the only way in and out to that project is going to be B Road. And that's how it's all going to have to be routed, because all those other entrances and exits might dry up and go away as soon as the DOT starts moving forward with some of its plans. And I think that needs to be taken into consideration.
Thank you, Howard. Kaish?
Hey, Gonzalez, Raymond Drive. I agree with what Marge and Mr. Gordon have said. We are, as you know, a lot of people in this town don't want the development. And a lot of people are afraid of messing up the voters pool. Bringing this type of institution to the town, could that do that? So I oppose to that. Thank you.
Okay. All right, those are all the cards we got. All right, what's the next step?
If there is no action if you just take this evening, it was the process in the PUD, so they have to, of course, they're not able to speak with you individually once an application is filed. So I think it's an opportunity for this type of discussion, and then they proceed through the process.
All right.
And it's the same for the next one.
Okay. Move on to the next one, I guess.
So Joe Ryan on the agenda, and I'm Bob Evans. In a moment, we're going to be giving you an overview of the Simon property, the commercial component of that property, and also, so Joe, if you can hand me the mouse. Again, this is actually a copy of a program, a presentation that was given to you about a year ago. So if it looks familiar, it is because you have seen it previously. We presented it to you back then, and it's effectively the same thing you saw back then with a few minor adjustments to it. It is significantly more detailed than the one Marty just presented to you because, first off, we're not looking at the entire property because, as everyone is aware, 75 of the 97 acres, of course, today is owned by the college. I know on the neighboring property you were looking at the entire site. This particular property, we're zooming in just on the actual commercial parcel you have. And of course, this is the aerial that does show all of the property. Once again, we're going to be focused in on just 21.7 acres, which does have a land use of commercial low, and is the property we're going to be focused on today. Of course, the remaining 75 acres is currently owned by Palm Beach State College, something I know the council is very aware of. Below the area in yellow, this is that area, and again, of course, it is on the northwest corner of Southern Boulevard and B Road. This is a copy of our site plan. It's, of course, much more detailed than what you just saw from Marty because we have a lot of the detailed components of the site plan, again, very similar to what you saw last year. Let me begin by talking a little bit about access points. I know that was a big issue in the previous project, and we'll talk about it here. Before we ever developed the site plan for the property, we did go to the Department of Transportation. We do have a letter from FDOT approving actually 3 access points into the Simon property. 2 of them along Southern Boulevard actually impact the commercial component. The 3rd one is further to the west and is only an access point for the college itself. The 2 that are shown here, one in the center of the property is a right in, right out, as is the one that's really a shared access point between ourselves and the college parcel itself, and that again is at the western edge of our property. As kind of to reemphasize, there will be a main access drive that will be leading into the college off of Southern Boulevard at the western end of the project, and that will be a shared access point between both of ourselves as well as the college itself. In addition to that, we have one access point that serves commercial property off of B Road. There is a second one further to the north that actually does serve the college. And again, that would be a connection to B Road itself. And of course, that does line up with the road that Marty just talked about a moment ago, and that is Tangerine. As we have discussed previously, Tangerine is sort of that main street for Loxahatchee Groves. It will line up with the property to the east of our site, and it does terminate at the college property. It will not proceed further to the west than this access drive that will be shared again with the college on that parcel. And again, that has kind of become, and you'll see that in just a moment, really our main street in our particular proposed project itself. This is again that area that is Tangerine, and this is an area that I'm going to show you an elevation of in just a second. And again, it's intended to be that Main Street area with commercial retail shops actually fronting along that section of the roadway. And we'll zoom in on it in just a moment. On the north side of the property, and again, this is a retention area really just for the commercial property. It's about 6.5 to 7 acres in size. As you can tell, it's a major dominant element on the overall site plan, and that is going to be an open water lake area. Around that lake area is going to be this yellow area, which is an equestrian trail system. Is intended to really provide access to the property as well as a recreational horse trail system that hopefully will also circumnavigate around the college property too and provide access to the north along B Road. And again, we have actually identified on our plan locations where you can actually tie up your horses and then kind of hopefully shop in the retail center. In addition to that, kind of I guess similar to what Marty had on his plan, there's an area along the front that we showed you a year ago, which is also an open space area. Again, once reminding yourselves, this is really 21 acres of the overall 97-acre parcel, and I'm going to blow that area up, and this is kind of more of a detailed plan of what that area is intended to be. It's really a passive community park located in the middle of the center, and it's intended also to have any kind of a green market or art shows or any other community events that could potentially occur on the property, and that is really what the intention of that parcel is along the site. And again, we're showing the intent of having a small gazebo in the middle of the property, and again, making it a small open space park passive area on the plan itself. As a kind of an overview to the site, we've been following the Loxahatchee Groves Rural Vista Committee guidelines, which of course have been established by Loxahatchee Groves. And these guidelines are really key to this proposed project. We've been working, as you know, with the community for many, many years, and we've incorporated many of those design elements in the overall site. I'm going to zoom in onto a couple of areas. The area on the north end, which are two retail buildings, do front along, once again, Tangerine Drive. And again, it's intended to create a Main Street location. And this is a kind of a perspective sketch looking towards the college. If you were standing over by B Road and you're looking to the west, you have your retail shops on the north side of that entry road itself. The area intended to have anything a main drive, not parking located along what you find in many retail centers. It's really provided to look more like an actual street. In addition, from an architectural perspective on the building, we've taken a lot of the elements, components that you have in your Rural Vista guidelines for the actual buildings themselves, and these include things such as the cupola. We have metal roof. We have the lap siding on the side of the building, like a wood type siding on the building. And we also have an arcade running along the front of the building, all intended to give it that rural character of design, again, similar to what you're looking for in Loxahatchee Groves. This is kind of a building that is located up on in Jupiter Farms. Again, you see some of the same characteristics, some of the same elements, again, the rural elements that you, I think, want to see here in Loxahatchee Groves, ones we've been very sensitive towards and designed the project around. The larger building on the western edge of the property, which is really tended to be more of a grocery building, is a similar vein. We have used similar architecture, and just kind of recap and run through that building. Again, some very similar elements, dormers on the building, similar to what you'll find in other buildings in rural communities such as those. In addition, we have metal roof, we have the similar siding, we have the arcade run in front of the building. Again, using similar architectural style, more of a rural character of design for the overall building itself. Again, similar to other buildings that you find within this community, as well as along within the Jupiter Farms area, throughout Palm Beach County, where you find more of an equestrian or rural community. Again, the intent is to make it, design it very much as you intended to be with your Loxahatchee Groves rural design guidelines in this particular site. One thing else I want to talk about is a waiver we're going to be requesting within. One thing Loxahatchee Groves is going to certainly have the most of, or the largest amount of anyway, and that is parking spaces. I think you may recall that the actual required parking spaces that you have in Loxahatchee Groves are very large. I think they are intended to handle larger vehicles. It is our intent to have a number of those larger spaces on our property, but not have all of the spaces designed to handle, for example, a dually truck. We think that's excessive, and in this day and age of trying to be, sensitive to the environment and the pervious area on a particular site, having a lot of extra asphalt probably isn't the wise thing to do. So the required parking space size is 11.5 by 22.5 feet with 28-foot wide access drives. That would require overall roughly 6.5 acres of pavement on the site. And just to give you a quick example, and I hate to compare anybody to the county, but in the county, from 11.5, they require 9.5. Just to give you an example, so 2-foot narrower parking space, roughly a little over 20% less than what you have here. And the parking space depth in the county is 4 feet shorter, 18.5 feet. So that shows you how large that parking space is. In fact, if you look at a handicap space is only 12 feet wide, and plus the 5-foot ramp on the side. So that is a very, very, very large parking space. Our intent is to have a 10 by 20 foot space with a 26-foot access drive. Again, probably larger than most communities, including the county, you would find. But it does save about 25% of the impervious area in the overall property, allows us to have less asphalt on the property, hence opening up more of the green space area that we have on our plan. So again, that is a waiver we're going to be asking for. And once again, I want to reiterate that we will have spaces set aside to be able to accommodate larger vehicles. We just don't think all of the spaces need to be that size on the overall plan. Something else that you have been very much concerned about and aware of, and that is B Road. What happens to B Road? Who's going to be paving B Road? And I want to talk briefly about that. There is really 3 parties committed to accomplish that goal. They include the college, ourselves, and again, the property that Marty represents to the east of the site. And together, we are going to be completing the B Road construction. And really, it includes several parts. The portion to the north of the collecting canal will be an Ojum section running all the way up to Okeechobee Boulevard. And the section to the south down to Southern Boulevard from the collecting canal will be actually asphalt paved section of roadway. And that section of roadway, again, will have the respective turn lanes in it, for example. In addition to that, at the collecting canal, we're going to be redoing the canal crossing there, widening, expanding that, making that more appropriate for the new proposed construction. In addition to that, there's some additional right-of-way that's going to be dedicated, and of course, you're going to have your respective turn lanes, both left and right, as well as a redesigned intersection there at Southern Boulevard and B Road. And again, that's going to be shared by all of the parties that are part of this proposed project. And again, it's intended to be constructed simultaneously. I remember one of the times you asked me, when is it going to be built? I'm sure you would prefer it to be already constructed, and it's going to be constructed simultaneously to the development of these respective properties and will be completed prior to these projects being open. So that kind of gives you a quick overview of our proposed project and a little bit of an overview again of B Road. Happy to hear some of your comments, questions you may have about it, and be able to answer those. Thank you very much for the time.
Okay. Tom, comments? Ron?
Bob, my comment is, I said before, I'd like to see B Road paved. You mentioned the project being completed.
Prior to.
Okay, way prior is what I like to see. Okay.
Right.
No real comments, it was just a good overview of what you've already presented.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I've got Marcia Newell.
Hi, Marcia Newell, 3508 Cedar. Actually, the first development on the opposite side of the street. I heard tonight that you've been talking about it for a long time. Here again, I don't believe the public knows it, just like with the college. One of the big things when we were talking about college a couple of months ago was the commercial, and we didn't need a whole bunch, so we were just going to do that little bit in college. Now, all of a sudden, we're going to have a hell of a lot of commercial on the other side of the street. Somehow, it isn't fair to the people of Loxahatchee Groves not to somehow be informed, email, mail, whatever you have to do to contact people. You five represent the people of Loxahatchee Groves. Never in 40 years has anybody called me or asked me or come by and said, what do you think? 40-something years, more than 40 years now I've lived here. I mean, I'm appalled that we could almost get that much more commercial without even telling the people. It's going to be exactly what happened to you with the college. Exactly. People are going to go crazy. And another thing that just blows my mind, I don't know if any of the rest of you lived here 40 years ago, but calling Tangerine Main Street Loxahatchee destroys me. Tangerine was, and I apologize, it was the darker section of town, and it was migrant housing, and the lady who used to own the AG owned these little shacks, and she rented out rooms for as many people as she could get in there. And it was sad. I mean, it was so sad. It was behind Gary's Midway, and the bus would come in the morning, and they'd crawl onto the bus, and off they'd go. And it was the saddest thing. For Tangerine to be Main Street just blows me away. But that's okay.
Thank you, Marcia.
Thank you, but I do think you need to do some kind of
And we are open. I mean, you know, we try to use the paper and everything else.
I don't get the newspaper. I did see us on TV tonight, though.
Yeah. You know, I mean, whatever we need to do, that's what we've been problem out with.
Somehow you've got to do it, whether you get mail or what, you've got to notify people, because they're going to go berserk over that.
All right. That's the only comments we've got. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And moving on to 6. Well, then I think we'll do it with everybody. 7A, we'll just move back to new business. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking at new business. Yeah. Item 4, committee report. So we have the financial committee. Alicia?
I'm reporting on the January 28th meeting. We approved the November and December financials 4-0, no new sizes. The ending bank balance as of December 31st is 3.149,000, $3,149,000. Through December 31st, the town received 15% of the annual revenue budgeted against 10% of the expense during 25% of the year. Year-to-date revenue expense by $185,000. Committee members noted that legal expense year-to-date is 43% of budget, with over 25% of the year past. And this is due to the Day lawsuit, the initial petition and one court case, for which staff is going to ask the magistrate to recover costs. The revenue and expense, the reason that we're lower on percent revenue and percent expense than the year is primarily due to shortfalls in capital expenditures. We have not expended any of our capital expenditures yet. The committee asked me to make you aware of the status of our cost recovery accounts. These cost recovery accounts are the balances owed to the town by applicants for zoning and land use changes. As you know, the current process is to require a deposit from the applicant, and then as the town incurs costs, invoices are charged to that account. However, it seems that we're always behind, and we have several negative balances, which they asked me to make you aware of. The Kildare Associates Day property, $7,430. Community of Hope, $906. Palm Beach State, $4,801. Valley Crest, which I think Mark said he was going to recover shortly, and it may be in line now, I don't know. $4,745. And then FMM 1, which I think is a medical doctor's office project, was $1,000. So the total of all the balances was almost $20,000. And I think the committee did want me to speak to you about this tonight because it really has been apparent for some time that the current cost recovery process we have is not working and that we need to develop a new process. However, staff resources have not been dedicated to this issue because of other priorities the town has had. The committee, several committee members asked me to tell you that this is troubling to them. And they expressed concern that this could cause public, a negative public opinion. We know it's not your intent for the taxpayers to be paying for fees which are incurred as a result of zoning and land use applications. However, this is what is happening, in effect happening, and we are recommending that staff resources be assigned to developing a new process which would involve creating a fee schedule that we would collect at each stage of the zoning and land use process. And that's our recommendation to you, is that you allow us to have some staff resources to, develop that process. Committee was very happy to see Ken Johnson back. I think that, the next meeting is February 25th of 2013. And Virginia, did you have anything to add?
If I may?
Sure. Virginia.
Virginia Standish, 15410, speaking as a member of the FAAC committee. The cost recovery discussion was very involved, and there is a concern, especially because of not having an established set fee structure and process that would allow staff and landowners to know what to expect in advance. And it also would help prevent the unnecessary cloud of suspicion on the process that can occur. And as an example, you have somebody who approached the town a few years ago and was quoted $1,500. They came back this year. Of course, things evolve and change, and now they're told $3,500. Nothing wrong with that, but we have nothing, like when we collect building department fees, they go to the building department, what those fees are. However, we have other issues here, and if the council could perhaps give some comments to the FAAC so we could come back to you with some suggestions, perhaps a larger commercial projects, as Elise is saying. We had established, for everything, you establish a set process and a fee, and if the fee is used up, then the process stops on both ends. They cannot continue forward. And we're not asking to create financial hardships either on small resident properties. We're just looking for input from the town council so the FAAC can give you some feedback to establish a process. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Elise. Thank you, Virginia.
Councilman?
Yes.
On the subject of that feedback? I would think that, I guess you really has two issues. One would be the issue of how did we give approvals for people and we didn't pay the bill, and I think that would be an easy one in that if Mark would just not agendize somebody who was not 100% up to date, then we wouldn't have that problem. That would be the simple one. The other problem, I think, relates to the payment of the lump sum, and then the itemization of the fees that come out of that lump sum, and if there is a refund from that lump sum. That's what's the concern, I believe, is that there's a lack of, that there's some people who are not satisfied with where, I mean, what is the issue with that part of it?
I don't understand your question.
Well, like Virginia was saying, or I thought you had explained to me, that when a fee was $3,500, that there was something that the $3,500 was for, and it was several items, and then,
Well, we're asking. Well, yeah, right. I mean, what we're asking, we're not trying to develop the whole process tonight. We're asking if staff can be given, if you would allow staff to dedicate the resources to developing the process. And it would be a process of fees where, you know, if someone comes in and they say, I want to do X, you know, we say, you know, just like the county has, you can pay X amount at this point and Y at this point, and it's set and established so that they would know. And Mark can tell you, I'll let Mark answer it because if you go any further, because we're really just looking for town management staff's recommendation at this point.
I was trying to understand what the problem is. I mean, the problem that people didn't pay their fees and we've given them approval, I understand that part. I think that's a simple fix. The other part is just doesn't have a problem at all.
Well, the problem is that the current process is we ask them for a fixed amount, say $10,000. You know. But then there seems to always be a lag between the time when the bills come in, you know, and the $10,000 gets used up, and then our staff has to make a call to the applicants and pay some money, and you know, it's just a constant problem for the staff to keep up on. It's basically once you use up your deposit, we call you and we ask you for more money, and then you use that up and we call you and ask you for more. And we've been doing it since, you know, for several years, and every month we're looking at negative balances for somebody. And that's why we're saying we want to be able to develop a process of fees. We're trying to make sure that we recover the costs of, you know, zoning and land use changes. I mean, you know, we don't believe, and I don't think you believe, that these should be, taxpayers should pay for someone else's zoning and land use change. They should pay for themselves. That's what we're trying to do. And all we're asking for is give us an opportunity to have staff develop a process that we can bring back to you for discussion. We're not trying to solve all the details of it tonight.
Sure.
At least I'm still a little confused. Why don't we just ask the finance committee to develop the process and bring it back? Or do you feel like, because to me, if staff develop the process, they can bring it to the finance committee and say, here's our process, and you guys have a chance to go through it. I get a flavor that you have some ideas. And if I'm misunderstanding, it also sounds like we need a modular approach that says, you don't have, if you have a project that might require $10,000, that you may still demand the $10,000, but each step along the way, we make sure that that's happened and the price of what that had been is known. And maybe in addition to the process, you say, you get to within 30% of your total, you have to stop, make sure we have everything covered before we get even closer. Maybe there's a buffer in there, or maybe you ask for
What
more.
we're looking for is a staff recommendation on how we should proceed, what they would recommend. We've already done it, staff last year, we've been talking about this for 2 years. And, you know, Frank Spence had Tuba Taylor develop some proposed fees for us. So we can, you know, we can review that, and Mark would have to tell you how much of his resources he thinks it would take, you know, how major this would be for him. But we absolutely need staff input and some staff time to be dedicated to this, even if they just have to review it. So, you know, we've already started. I don't know if that would work, if they feel that, you know, the proposal that was prepared a couple of years ago would work, but we do need your, we need your concurrence and direction to staff on how you want them to proceed.
All right, well, if we need to direct the staff, and then the staff will end up with something that you guys will review and put your, close scrutiny to it, and then I presume a combination of those two efforts will bring something back. But if we're gonna spend time on something, I want to get the 20,000 back in our pocket. Maybe that's where we need to spend the time, because that needs to be done too. So, Mark, you certainly have opportunity if everybody else has asked us done with the questions.
Okay.
Yes, thanks, Mayor. We don't really believe the problem is as acute as it was presented. Right now, I've contacted most of the people that are in arrears. Most of them are ready to pony up the money. We provide them with an accounting. Generally, we fall behind a few months while we're waiting for all the bills to come in, although I do understand and do agree that we may have to hold up that last approval until the accounting catches up. Now, the proposal that both Lisa and Virginia just indicated to you is a proposal that we gave to you. We gave you a list of priorities. Amending the cost recovery ordinance is one of our priorities, and we indicated that what they just described to you is the process that we want to go through. The problem has been we have other projects, as you know, that have moved forward. I'm going to be reporting on several of those in my report. But it's our intention to do something very similar to what they're talking about. What it's going to mean is we may be holding people up at some points to make sure that the accounting catches up to the process, whether they're at P&Z. Your first reading of talking ordinance or whatever. The only cost recovery account that we really have a problem on is the day. And that's like 7,000 and change in arrears. And as we were getting ready to request that payment from Mr. Gilday, that's when we were informed we were going to have a lawsuit. So at that point, we had to pull back and not request that any further. And the only reason why with some of these projects we get in those kind of situations is because they have special considerations. If you may remember that one was tabled a couple times and they went back to and so you have extenuating circumstances. But I'm fully in agreement with the committee. I think what the committee is asking you is that if you could tell us to move forward and make that a higher priority, then obviously we'll be happy to do it.
The concern I have, Mark, is that we have not one case, not two, not three, not four, or we might have four. So it's not like it happened once. And I think the point Tom was making, that there is no final approval. It's held up until you guys have a final accounting of all the expenses. Now, the thing I thought I heard, and I would suggest in your procedure, you don't wait for a bill to come in. If you've asked somebody to do something relative to something that's like before us, you get an estimate of what it might be. And then when the bill comes in, you can true it up. But before that, I would, it's a little bit like when you use your credit card before you actually make a purchase, somebody deducts the balance from what's available. Well, maybe that needs to be part of the process. So you can't get to the position where you're really that squeezed.
Respectfully, Vice Mayor, I would say that's more work than the way it's doing now, because that means I have to jump on Mr. Fleischman, I have to jump on Mr. Cirillo, and have them give me their bills in process, so I know I'm up to the minute with what they're billing. I mean, that's a lot more work.
No, I'm not asking for them to give you your bills beforehand or get them faster. First of all, what we have doesn't work.
Okay, but clarify from what you said. That's what I thought you said.
If you turn over something, you say to Mike or you say to Jim, we need you to work on this. Give us an estimate and make sure it's high.
We do that. We do that up front.
But when you do that up front, and now you take the balance that somebody's provided to us, and you take away from that balance the estimate, and make sure these guys are high, and then during the process that we can double check to see how good these guys are at estimating high. Maybe we tell them they need to estimate a little higher. But the point is, you know when you ask for services, and you have a balance that you're working against, then we can't wait for the bills to true up. We've got to do something up front. I'm giving you input from my one council member as to how to change this process. That's my suggestion. We get 4 others, and maybe we give you, along with your own, you can merge them. And I'm just saying, you can't go on a basis of 2 to 3 months, catch up on bills after the fact, because you have that risk. And I'm sure you can get an estimate. Maybe their estimate is set at $2,500, which is the bill. Maybe they told you $2,000. Well, that's a far cry better than waiting to find out that 20,000, I know it's 20,000 multiple sites, but that in the whole. So I just suggest you might want to do that. I don't want to create extra work, but when you make a call and you ask somebody to do something, at the same time you say, what do you think it's going to cost? And let me know if it's more. And then when the bill comes in 2 months later, you're not going to be surprised because you probably have it earmarked. That's my recommendation.
Well, that's why we recommended to you that we have to change the ordinance so that it is very clear that nothing moves forward. Right now, I don't have that ability to do that. And what it looks like is we're then holding somebody up inappropriately. If our ordinance says that in the future, then I can try to get those bills to make sure that we are at that stage in line.
All right, it seems strange with the ordinance, it's so exactly worded that you can't put an estimated cost in there that would represent, quote, the cost anticipated. And no, they don't move forward if they start getting too close. So I don't know, I have to read the ordinance to make sure. But if it doesn't say that, and the council thinks the idea of using estimates is a good one, then we ought to change the ordinance.
Not really. The use of estimates is a bad one. We have to put our crystal ball on and try to figure out what's going to happen. That's what happens. When every case is different, you have certain things that happen during the processing of that sometimes you can't envision.
Jim, if I ask you to do something on a particular project, and I ask you for an estimate, you can provide me with an estimate. It may not be what actually happened, but you can provide me with an estimate. 3 weeks later, you realize your estimate is low. You could call me back and say, by the way, Jim or Mark, we probably need to add a grand to that. You could do that well before the billing comes. And that shouldn't be a lot of work, but you should know. Mike, I would hope to be able to do the same kind of thing. That you put a ballpark number out there, and by the way, as you do that, you probably get a little smarter at what that did last time. And then when you think you're past it, just let us know. I mean, I'm trying to get Mark I don't want him crystal balling this, but I think you guys don't crystal ball. You guys have a better understanding of what it might cost. And is there any other costs that may be associated? And I'm listening for Jim or Mike to tell me how out of line the idea may be, or maybe it's not a bad idea.
The ordinance does provide the town council with the authority to abate the process if someone falls behind. It also provides that if it requires final approval, that they have to pay before it comes. So I think we just have to match that up with what we're doing. But I think that what was discussed tonight, I think is already, as far as holding up a project in the future, I can work with Mark. I'm comfortable that it can be done.
We did do that in the past. The one that comes to mind is SDA. We held them off until they gave us another check. It cost them to move them back. I didn't want additional meetings, but they went ahead and did it.
What Mike was talking about there with, I guess the approvals being conditional on payment, is that true?
Yeah.
So if somebody hasn't paid, their approval isn't approved?
Well, you've already voted on it. It may have come forward and maybe things came in afterwards. I don't want to speak in any individual thing. All I'm saying is that you've got an ordinance that authorizes us to do that, and we'll do it. I don't think it would affect the validity of anybody who's got a final approval.
Unless they haven't paid.
Because we moved it forward. We didn't stop it. It doesn't affect, I don't think.
So if they don't want to pay now, they don't have to?
I don't think that's the case either. If they have to come to town for anything else, we're not going to do anything else for them. You can't run away from the town if you're doing business in the town. And so any of these guys that have arrears, if they're not going to pay us and they've already got that approval, then they're not going to do anything further. They're not going to get anything further. We're not going to process anything. And I think I'm comfortable with that as we've got it right now. You guys can, anybody who's in arrears, they're abated until they make it up, whether it be the next rezoning or next site plan or next whatever. And that can be used by Mark, I think, to go after the folks who are in arrears now, who may have come to you already for their approvals.
Okay. Ron, did you? Okay, sure. Jim.
Yeah, in response to Vice Mayor's question, the way that
we have operated is that when an application comes in, we give an estimate as to how much time it's going to take us to get through the entire process. That estimate is generally based upon the assumption that steps A, B, C, D, and E are going to go relatively smoothly. A lot of the projects go smoothly. We have to go back to P&Z 2 or 3 times. We schedule workshops that we don't anticipate. So I think that's a good point that when we get maybe approach the point of our first estimate where we can see that obviously it's going to take more, that we contact Mark and tell them that we need to up our escrow deposits to cover for this extra time.
Well, but there's the answer right there. I don't think we should plan on things running perfectly. I would plan perfectly, then add 30%. That money can always be refunded to the applicant. So I think we need to work on our estimation skills and I'll leave it over.
Long Chair.
Long Chair, I'm the chair of the Finance Advisory Committee. I just want to help you guys out to put it in the conclusion. The main reason for tonight's presentation by Vice Chair Ryan is to bring to your attention that we need to do some work regarding how much we could recover the cost for the audit development and zoning. I know that you are all very supportive of the idea. We would like to solicit your support so that we could ask the town management to come back with a more refined mechanism. And the committee would be more than happy to work with them and come back with at least some system there so that we don't absorb the cost by the citizens for the development. And I hope that we don't, I'm sure that you could discuss the whole night, but I want it to be more well planned and so that all considerations are taken into account. So I would suggest that the council direct the town management to come back with some proposal, and the committee would be more than happy to go through it, and then come up with some suggestion that to make sure that at least that we recover most of the costs, although may not be making profit, but at least we don't have to worry about not recovering our expenses. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Any other comments?
I'd like to say I have confidence in Mark's ability to work with the
Okay. So you'll get with them and we'll get this worked out.
We'll do it up on the
All right. You all right with that, Jim? All right.
I'm just hoping we don't have anything else of more significance fall by the wayside. You have to manage that.
Oh, like daylight projects.
Okay, Ron? Oh, okay.
Mr. Mayor, I would make a motion that we approve the financial report for November and December of 2012.
We have a motion to accept the financial report.
Second.
Second by Ryan. Further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Moving to B, as you heard in the meeting, Ken Johnson will be returning as my appointment to financial committee. So he is under the weather tonight, but he is recovered enough to where he's looking forward to serving on that committee. So moving to item 5A.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, this is second reading, proposed ordinance relating to agricultural sales. This was heard at your last meeting on first reading. It was approved on first reading by a vote of 3-2. To move it on to second reading. This is the adoption hearing. Under your charter, it must be adopted by a vote of at least 4 of you in order for this to become a new ULDC. At this point, what I would recommend is we have a brief report from the town planner, and at the appropriate time, after that's concluded, we can I can read the title and move on to the public hearing. This is a public hearing.
Thank you, Mayor. The staff report and proposed ordinance is presented on pages 53 through 64 of your agenda package. And just in review, the Planning and Zoning Board recommended approval at its November 8, 2012 meeting, and the council voted to approve the ordinance on first reading at its January 15th meeting, subject to the following 3 revisions. First of all, that the requirement for a special exception approval for deliveries by semi-truck be deleted. Second, that the requirement that the number of employees at a residential agricultural sales and services business be limited to a maximum of 2, that requirement be deleted. And the third change was that the hours of operation be revised to allow these businesses to operate Monday through Saturday, 8 through 8, and on Sunday from 12 p.m. to 5 p.m. The proposed ordinance language is on page 61 through 64. And unfortunately, the changes that the council recommended or required on first reading didn't make it into this version of it. So if it's okay with the council, I'd like to just read them into the record at this point. Mike.
Well, at this point, it's up to you all whether you want to proceed, because the agenda and the backup didn't have the updated version of your 3 comments. If you're comfortable with them read in record, you can proceed. If you're not, you want to see them in writing, you can continue this to your March 5th meeting.
The changes are really very simple and very minor. I can show you where they are and sort of walk you through it.
I think we can have you do that, because as I recall, the last time we looked at this, we did have changes noted that we had agreed to. So it's kind of like they were there, now they've disappeared, but you can certainly remind us they were there. I think we approved them once we saw them at that time, or at least people approved them as they saw them at that time.
All right, Mr. Mayor, my concern is, you don't have it in the agenda for people to read, and, the transparency issue, I'm not really trying to delay anything, but trying to do things right. Talked about it in the past.
Any other comments?
I'm inclined to agree with Tom, just for better transparency for the rest of the folks, just so they have enough time to read changes and understand.
And I'm willing to say that there should be no sort of code enforcement actions taken, again, because of us not doing that. It should just stay as it is, because we get anybody in trouble over it, but I'd like to do it.
I think it would be good to have the proper, to read it through and be changing this late is, I think it comes across very well.
Mr. Mayor, one other thing we're going to postpone that. One thing I wanted to ask specifically our mayor is, I don't know for what reason they might have voted no. But if we do need 4 votes, I would like to consider changing the vote to approve this, because when we go back to June, pretty much this council was unified and let's get this thing fixed. And whether there's other things to do, or we could cover more things if we wait longer, which I don't know really the full reason what you were voting not to approve it. But I think if we have something that we've worked on, we can get it done, even if it's a small piece of the code 5 in these meetings, and hopefully look forward to a vote, positive vote from you and the other 3 members to vote again positively, and maybe the 5th member that didn't vote will find the mayor on the vote. But I hate to see us go through this process. We've already now moved move it to here, and move it again, and then come back and tell the folks that we're not going to approve it. I just think that, and if you'd like to comment, certainly, but I'm just saying, I want to ask you that tonight, so that when we get to that point, so now you have a whole month to figure it out.
And I can answer that. Howard made some excellent points. You know, we've got a ULDC committee that's working on these things, and to come around and kind of circumvent that at this later date, you know, raise some concerns for me. I mean, it's not that I'm against what we're doing here, you know, or anything else, but those were really my points. You know, I'm not going to tie this up. You know, so anyway, Ron?
We just got the ULDC committee. I think all of them are going to do a good job. They had a meeting the other night. I think it was either 11:30 or 12:30 before they walked away. I don't know what kind of conclusions they come up with, but I believe it's going to be a long process. We've spent a lot of time on this ordinance here, okay, and there's people waiting. And we all came, we had a full house at our last council meeting, and we didn't have one complaint or one comment from the audience as far as this is concerned. We spent a lot of time, we spent a lot of legal money on this, and I think we need to finalize this because the ULDCs have got a lot on their plate. And this shouldn't be held up since we've gotten this far, so I hope next month that, and I've never agreed with the 4-to-1 vote to begin with. I believe in democracy, and that should be the majority, not 4-to-1, but that's beside the point.
Okay, Howard Ward.
Ron, I'm sorry you didn't, Howard Warren, you wrote, I'm sorry you didn't remember all my comments.
I did.
Okay, so I am a member of the public, and I'll say the same thing again. And Mr. Mayor, one of the big points I made, which has absolutely been ignored, is the fact that these are not agricultural sales. Now, you don't knowingly put something that is against the definitions that are in the Florida Constitution as part of the ULDC. Now, you can choose to ignore that and put it in there, and then, of course, I'm going to argue the whole thing again at the ULDC committee. But if you want to call these agricultural services, there's no argument. But you cannot call them agricultural sales because the products they're selling are not produced on their farm where they're selling it. And that is absolute, flat-out definition in the state of Florida. And I'm glad you didn't approve it, Mr. Mayor and Tom, for that reason. And I see here we are, the next meeting, nobody's bothered to address that, what I see as a major flaw. As soon as you start messing with definitions, then everything winds up being up to personal interpretation. And that's what we have to avoid. Thank you.
Thank you, Howard.
Mr. Mayor?
Tom?
You know, we have till the next meeting. And I assume they're going to have a meeting in the meantime. I don't really see why they couldn't look at this so that we would get the review that we're looking for, right? And then be able to vote on it. I think both Jim and your concerns could be satisfied if we could do that. And so long as no one's getting in trouble and life continues for the ice, then I really don't see, you know, what's the question?
Think we can do that, Ron?
You can do it. I'm
You
going to
know, I mean,
report out to me in my report. We can have that.
Because this is an issue that you know, with the definition. Go to Jim.
I'd just like to respond to Howard's comment real briefly. The zoning district that this use is going to be in is the agricultural residential zoning district. That's the title of the zoning district. This is a use that we're going to be permitting in the agricultural residential zoning district. I took the title of the zoning district and I flipped it around, residential agricultural, to emphasize the fact that this is an accessory use to a residential use in that zoning district. It doesn't really have anything to do with state statutory definitions of what is or is not agriculture.
Maybe one of the recommendations could be to do that.
Yeah, that might be a good idea. Yeah. Ron?
Howard, I remember what you said, and your comments were good, but you made another comment tonight that you didn't make at your last meeting. You said the problem is ag sales, and all we need to do is change it to ag services. Jim, I got a question for you. Do you have a problem with that, changing that wording from ag sales to ag services?
No, I don't think so. I mean, because we define specifically in the text of the ordinance what can or cannot be done under that term or title.
Or maybe ag-related product sales, because that's really what it is, because hay is not a service, it's a product.
Ag-related property sale.
As a caution, that's landfill line too, because we have to be careful, if you start to change the title, then you have to start from scratch again. I'm sure you know
Okay.
that.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're on second reading. And, you know, of course, you just understand and you're free to make the changes. It just might mean you'd have to have a second first reading because you've changed it enough that the title hasn't been read twice.
All right.
So if you do that, that's, you know, that's your prerogative. It just would mean we'd have to have a second first reading at that point. That's it, but it's not, it's
All
only
right,
a
so
delay meeting.
we're going to bring it back at the next meeting, if we can get the ULDC committee to look at this.
It'll work, we'll be able to take it to the LDC committee, it's continued to your next meeting.
Yeah, all right, Mr. Mayor, I'd recommend a motion because this was noticed and published, and so if you do a continuation to date specific, it carries forward, so next meeting's March 5th.
A motion to table it, or a motion
to continue the item
All motion continues
to March 5th, 2013, which is the next meeting.
Okay, we have a motion to continue to the March 5th meeting, second by Tom. Any other further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Moving to ordinance 6.
Could we have a?
Yes, let's take a break. Stretch.
They need to come up with a schedule of a list of jobs.
When I look at the 6, it's like we've been there forever and never
I was looking at this back in time, and I was trying to know.
Thank you.
Some of those timeline, when did this happen? When did that happen? It's just a question. Let's see. I'm gonna write something. A date. About what? Oh, yeah, it was on my birthday. I get paid to stay here.
I thought the post not usually initial.
I'm not a columnist. Back here. If I had a column or if I looked at the year, the years, I got to say 6 or 7.
You cover all these areas or something?
That's no, I cover real quick, but I also I've been following higher education. Yeah. I was a TV producer. Change town and school. Yeah, I did that for about a year. About what?
About Johnson. That is not the tell me.
So what I think about it? It just in May. It just in May.
Did you see the comments?
No, I didn't. You ought to do that, right? Yeah. How long are you there? 18 years. Long time.
Since 2004.
Yeah, okay.
No, 94.
94, okay. Yeah, I've been 96. So you live out here?
The only two that I cannot pay for are the object. That's why it's
Right. Really? Yeah. You gotta wash your car every day? No. That's good.
Because right now you have so much dues, nice for the car.
Right.
So when you drop it,
Right, exactly. Yeah. How long have you lived
It's cool to work. That's always good. It's a lot of space. I hope they have something to do, like thinking about it.
I mean, personally, I think it's for the community.
What's the education?
I don't think it's the college so much. I think it's more of a that's going to come.
I don't disagree with that. A lot of people are setting their ways about how things should be.
Oh, yeah, this is a democratic society.
Right.
The voice of the best for human beings.
We get everybody back in their seats.
Right, exactly.
Put you in, squeeze you in the crowd, not anybody voting.
Well, we said knowledge is something nobody can take away
We get everybody back in your seats, please.
At the middle wall, yeah.
All right, moving on to 6A.
Mr. Mayor, members of the town council at the last meeting by a vote of 8-2, you directed the preparation of ordinance that would authorize, pursuant to the charter, compensation of $500 a month per council member to compensate for certain types of travel and phone expenses, et cetera, as pursuant to the recommendation of the FAAC. Tonight is first reading of that ordinance. Just want to remind the council that pursuant to the charter, town council by not fewer than 4 affirmative votes may elect to provide for compensation any increase in such compensation in ordinance. However, any such ordinance establishing or increasing compensation shall take effect until the date, shall not take effect until the date of commencement of the terms of council members elected to the next regular meeting, which follows the adoption of the next regular election, which follows the adoption of such ordinance. So it would not take effect until April of this year if it were adopted. It does require 4 votes of town council members, consistent with what you've done with land use approvals. And you can move it forward for second reading with 3, but it would require 4 to be adopted.
Okay.
And that title is a very brief title. An ordinance with town council. This is proposed ordinance 2013-01. An ordinance with town council of Town of Los Angeles, Florida, establishing compensation for council members, providing for codification, conflict, severability, and effective date.
I'll entertain a motion, and then we'll discuss it.
Okay. Okay, motion was discussed.
I'll make that motion.
You make a motion to approve it? To approve the...
Yes.
And that was the $500 a month.
Right. That's how it was proposed at your last meeting.
Right. Is there a second? Second. Second by Ron. Discussion by council members.
Yes. First of all, I know we're putting this under the category called compensation. My perspective is an allowance to basically covers expenses incurred. It's not beyond what would be an estimate of what it costs us to serve on the council. Vis-a-vis, it's not compensation in addition to what we're already putting in. And it's an estimate. I have a little different take on the data that was used to come up with the $500 per month. As with information like this, you probably can interpret it many ways, but I laid out groupings of the information that was used to come up with 5,000 or 6,000 a year at $500 a month. Includes 3 particular municipalities that their range of compensation, in, according to the chart, was from 12 to 15,000. It was 3 of those municipalities. There was another 3 municipalities that were 9 to 10,000. There was another 5 that ranged from 3,000 to 6,000. And then there was 7 that ranged below 3,000, which is half of what the 500 per month would be. So when I looked at that, considering this is a first shot out of the chute, we are suggesting something that is pretty much midpoint for established cities and the ones that have established compensation. We should start on the lower end of the scale and work our way up. You've got 3 of the 7, approximately $2,000. 3 are approximately $1,200, and 1 is at $300, which might be a good starting point, but it's like any set of averages. You throw out the low, you throw out the high. So I think we need to start out closer to something in the 7 range, which was below 3,000. Now the other thing that I'll comment on, unless Mayor Browning changes his vote and I change my vote, we get 0. And we can take 2 months to do it. To me, this is an opportunity to compromise, and by the way, I've already compromised. I started with 0, and I split the difference from 250 to 500, and nobody wanted to second that motion, and that's fine. Because I probably didn't explain it enough to where my position was and why I took it that way. But it may be an opportunity for this council to recognize, unless Mayor Browning changes his vote, because I'm not, I want to approve $500, we probably need to think about maybe taking a step back, taking a part step forward and turning to halfway, or even $200, because you didn't take my $250 a month, maybe it's only $200 now. So the point being, now's an opportunity. We really think there's something needs to be done, and the mayor gets an opportunity, certainly, as we all do, to comment on this. If he's ready to vote for this, then I've just wasted my breath.
All right, anybody else?
Why don't we cut to the chase? Can we change it to 250 and vote on it at 250?
It's first reading, yes, you can vote to amend the ordinance to provide for 250 and then vote on the amended ordinance.
I'd like to say that, it's insulting, number one. And number two, it's not worth $500 to sit here and do this. I don't think it's worth $500. I think it's worth a lot more when you sit here and you put up with 5 hours of ridiculousness like we've done several times. So, if we're not gonna have compensation, then I think we should just make a rule where we have a 2-hour meeting. If we don't get done, we'll do it next week. Because you know what? It's not important. It's not important enough to give us $500. Everything's just a charity and we should give in for everybody. But I don't see anybody doing that. I sure don't see these developers coming here doing any charity for us. So, if it's not worth it, it's not worth it. I don't need the $500 that bad. But that's it.
Ron?
Like I said, let's cut to the chase. I make a motion that we go for 250, amend the motion, go to 250.
We've got a motion. So I've got to go back to the one that made the motion. Before we do that. We have a motion in a second. Right now on this issue. Ryan, comments?
I feel that, I think the work that the council does, there should be some type of conversation. I've spent countless hours on all sorts of issues. Everyone who's been on the council can appreciate the time and effort that they put on for the town. And whether it's 500 or 250 or whatever it is, I think it's important to the council, and also it's an incentive for future council members that at least they are being somewhat compensated for their efforts when they sit here.
All right. And my thought, I've been on this for 6 years with no compensation. But it does cost. It costs time, it costs effort, and everything else. I talked before about $100 a meeting. the 250 is closer. I think to me 500 to start off with is too much. To ask for the community, am I going to say it's worth 500? The effort we put in here, 500 is not enough. You know, so, but as a taxpayer, you know, I'm looking for something in the middle. So I think what Jim was saying, we went to 250. I mean, that to me would be easier for the taxpayers of Loxahatchee Groves to accept than the 500. But we have a motion and a second. So, I've got one public comment. Marge?
Marge Herzog, A Road. I have to agree that 500 is too abrupt of a change from 0 to 500. Having been on the council, having served without any compensation, having been the person that went to all of the League of Cities meetings, all of the Western Communities meetings, you name the meeting, and the other council members weren't available for whatever reason, who went? Marge went. Did Marge submit any compensation? No, that was my choice. I felt it was my civic duty to do it. Would I have liked compensation? Sure. Was I going to bring it up? No, not me. No. So I agree that 250 at the most, I was going to say 200, but 250 at the most. I hear you saying that there is a lot of stuff that you do, you know, to prepare. Yes, there is a lot of reading, there is a lot of research, you know, and some do more than others, you know, and, you know, we respect, we see who's doing what. You know, we're not blind as we sit out here and watch. So I would respect the 250 at the maximum. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
You know, I sit here and I hear so much from people, you know, who want so much from me. I hear people who ask me why I can't do anything about this or why I can't do anything about that. Then I hear from my son and I hear from my family, why are you wasting your time with this foolishness? Like, why did I not get done what I needed to get done today? Plenty of things I didn't get done today because I was talking to Mark and a slew of other people. Well, I don't care. I'm not going to vote for any compensation. You want me to do it for free, I'll do it for free. But, and I'm not going to take it. But I'll tell you, I think that the attitude is insulting. I think the expectation that people are going to do this for free. Really, you got to question the motivation of why would anybody get up here and do this for free. Why would they take the call saying, oh, I hear you're behind this, I hear you're behind that? Why do they do that? Why would they do that? I sure can't figure it out. I still haven't, but I'll vote no on whatever.
Okay. Howard Warren.
Howard Warren, E Road. This is just my gut feeling, knee-jerk reaction to the discussion going on now. I don't necessarily think the community is going to have an issue with $500 with everything all you guys do. What I do believe the community is going to have an issue with is a year or 2 years from now when you ask for a raise. And then the headlines are going to be, town council wants more money. They say they're not getting paid enough. It's kind of easy to ask for the 500 right out of the box, and then maybe you'll go that extra mile because you have that extra money and you feel indebted to the town to spend that extra money to print out all those documents, and maybe you'll do a better job when you know you have that expendable income that you have a responsibility to spend because the town gave it to you to spend on your duties as a council person. I think the community would be a lot more kind in accepting the $500 now than they will be in hearing about $100 raises for the next 3 times you can do it. That's human nature. Thank you.
Thank you, Howard. John Ryan.
John Ryan, 3508 A Road. I think the reason you guys do what you do and put up with it
is you want to have as good a town as we can have. I think we got a lot of committees that do work to supplement your activities. It's not nearly as significant as the work you do. And I know that most, if not all, of the town council members spend dollars for gas and other items, copy paper and printer cartridges and cell phone bills and other things. So I think, $500 is one acceptable amount. If you wanted to do it less than that, I think you ought to plan on reviewing the amount at the end of the year and look at a change. But I think most of your service is because you want as good a town as we can have. And hopefully there's others of us out here that spend the time to accomplish the same purpose. So whatever you do, I think is acceptable, and I think most of it is very reasonable reimbursement for the expenses that you incur.
Thank you, John. Virginia Standish.
First, I need to ask if I can speak to this issue. I can, okay. Virginia Standish, 15410 North Road. I'm on the FAAC committee that reviewed this. And Mr. Rocket, I came up with 275. I went through, if you listen to the thing, and I went through and I threw out highs and lows and came up with my own number. But I will say this. It was looked at as an allowance, not compensation. I thought it was an insult to call it compensation for the time that you put in. And it was allowance for your own personal cell phone uses, anything that you expense out in your duties. So honestly, between 275 and 500, I invite anybody else to sit up there, okay? I'm giving Marge a ride home tonight, so she and I may battle this out on this one. But I do want to say that we respect what you do up there. There are people here who have served and know what it is that you do. And I guess we can invite them to serve also at zero cost and incur the expenses that you do also. But I would not be insulted if it was somewhere between 275 and 500 as a resident of this community. Thank you.
Okay, Thais Gonzalez, Long Shoot.
Thais Gonzalez, Raymond Drive. I really admire the work that some of you do. And I would agree with $500 is fair to cut even, or maybe not spend so much from your own pockets. Because, you have gas bills, cell bills, and cell phone bills and that kind of stuff. I agree to it.
Okay, Long Shoot.
Long Shoot, Bureau. I like to congratulate the town council having some open-minded regarding the allowance that you want to take. I think $500, in my opinion, is very minimal. I respect you that you want to take less, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor. We have a suggestion for a compromise. For those who don't need the money, we want to donate back to the town. For those who need it, let them have it. I think $500 a month is very minimal. Just think about 1 can of gas you fill up. Nowadays, regular truck, $56. It doesn't carry very far. So please, help out the town, help out your colleagues, help out the citizen, do a better job. I personally don't care about the $500 you receive a month because your contribution to our best interest far outweighs the $500. Thank you.
Thank you, Long Shoot. All right, any further discussion on Council? Ron?
People said on this council, some people on this council have said they listen to the people when they make the decisions. Well, the last council meeting, we had a full house, we had standing room only, we had too many people in here legally. Not one person got up and said that we didn't deserve $500. I think a couple people got up and said that wasn't asking too much. I agree with Howard. If we ask for it now and we get it, and I'm waiting for the negative ones to get up, but the majority tonight felt like $500 is not asking too much. So these people on this council that say they listen to the people when they make their verdict or decision, you know, I need to know whether that's true or not. But I'm not willing to give up everything because they don't want to vote for $500. They don't want to listen to the people.
All right.
Mr. Mayor, I think it's a stretch. Mr. Carroll is taking to say we don't listen to the people. I'll say that. This is an issue where the council has to make the decision, and we certainly are to input from the community. If the community was to come to us and say, by the way, we initiate a payment to you all of $500, that's different than us coming up with raising the issue and then trying to set the amount. Raising the issue for any compensation or allowance is ours to raise because that's what we have to do. That's what it's, and if the people are not opposed to it, it's fine. But what I also read into what I'm hearing is that some people think $500 is a fair number. That's fine. I think it's too much. So if I'm not listening to people by cutting the number down, I don't feel like I'm going against people's wishes in this situation. So I don't really agree with that comment that I'm not listening to people. And what I'm hearing is people saying it's okay. And that's important to me that they're saying it's okay to have some kind of payment.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to have a vote on the motion on the floor, and I would also acknowledge that most of the people did say 500, but, you know, we have an election coming up, so people think what they want to think. Go ahead.
All right. We have a motion and a second.
The motion and the second was to approve the ordinance for $500, which was submitted.
Now, if this is voted down, somebody can come back with a motion for a lower amount, right?
Well, you're actually voting on the ordinance. The motion is to approve the ordinance. It would be the ordinance we voted down. If there was discussion about changing the amount, then that should be amended, and that amendment voted on before you vote on the ordinance.
All right. So if we vote on it right now, it goes away.
Well, we could make a motion to reconsider, vote on that, and bring it back and then amend it at that point.
All right.
But the person on the short end, which would have to be the ones to make the motion, or the prevailing party would have to make the motion. The ones who voted against it would have to make the motion to reconsider.
All right. Or somebody can change their motion right now to something that might pass.
Correct.
All right. And
there's two ways to do it.
Yeah. So we've got a motion and a second that right now does not stand a good chance of passing at $500. But may pass at $300.
Right.
I'd like to see it voted on at 500 myself, because honestly, if that's what it really gets down to, the $200 is that big a deal, and you can't see that you want to donate it back to the town, so the net is no different, and you want to deny us the money, please make that vote, because I know how to deny people things too.
Okay. All right. And
so since we're doing all this negotiating and asking people what they're going to change their votes about, we'll be doing that a lot in the future.
Yeah.
Let's proceed.
All right. Some good points have been made tonight. I guess if we don't feel we need it, we can donate it back. This is really for future councils. I'm not going to be up here, hopefully for another 3 years, but, it's not the rest of my life. But anyway, who knows? All right, we have a motion and a second for compensation of $500. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
And I'm going to vote for it. All right.
Wait, this is 4-1. Okay, so that was first reading. It'll come back for second reading, and we'll have to have 4 votes, second reading, the next meeting, which is March 3rd.
All right. Moving on to, and if we could, let's move that 7A to the new business. I didn't think that. And moving to administration update. Mark.
Thank you. Regional DC Review Committee. We did have our first meeting on January 20th. Very good meeting. We covered items on the agenda after we got through the unfair items. And we discussed special exceptions. We also had non-conformities on there at that point. We have the committee has determined that they are going to meet on the third Thursday of the month at 5 o'clock. That will be our next meeting. It will be February 21st. I can tell you the agenda will be a continuation of the discussion of special exceptions and the non-conformity section that we placed on. We also, based upon your discussion earlier tonight, we will also put on the hay sales proposed ordinance amendment. We have the town attorney come to discuss the recent AGO opinion, and we have definitions. So we have those 5 items, and we'll try to take care of as much of that business as we can, and then continue the rest to the March meeting. And I would also remind council, as you see fit, please keep feeding me certain items that you think have a priority or need to be discussed, and of course, they'll go to the head of the class based upon your direction at this point in time. The second matter that I want to report on is we had the first roadway, equestrian trails, and greenways advisory committee. We held that on January 31st. And as you may remember, that was the first meeting that we've had as a board for a period of about six months or so, as we went on hiatus due to the issue with roadways and the issue with the grant that we had some problems with the issue of site control as it relates to the easements. So we had a lot of discussion about roads and a number of things, but the committee did make a recommendation that they wanted me to provide to you tonight, so for the record, I'm going to read that. It was a motion by Dr. Bill Lauda, moved to approve the committee's recommendation to the town council that within a reasonable time frame, example 6 months from February 5th, 2013, the town should not supply any money for the maintenance and/or improvement of any non-district road until the right-of-way easement for that road is legally transferred to the town. Town committee member Kathy Strelo seconded the motion, which passed unanimously 3-0. So just moving that recommendation on to you as requested by the roadway committee meeting, and I'll be happy to provide that to you if you would like. On January 28th, Vice Mayor Rocket and I attended the chamber luncheon where we received the award for the I guess they're calling it the best decorated vehicle. So I want to let you know we do have that plaque, and I'm going to talk to see if they want to come and actually present that at a future meeting. We haven't had a chance to have that discussion. Nevertheless, Vice Mayor Rocket did a fine job in accepting for the town and everything. 2 work items that I wanted to tell you about. And give you a little more information. You know, we talked about it at the last meeting, but one of the top priorities that the council had indicated to us, of course, was the invitation to bid for grading and hedging and all those services, and then an RFQ for town engineering. So I did want to tell you that the ITB has gone out, and it's been in process now. I did want to let you know also that today is actually the final day to receive written questions. The rest of the schedule looks this way. We will issue any addendums on February 19th. The proposal due date is set for March 15, 2013. The evaluation proposal will occur on March 29, 2013, and then the anticipated town council approval will be April 16, 2013. We have a lot of interest in this, so we do expect that we'll receive a lot of bids. And it may vary depending upon if you could take a bid singly or on all items. Additionally, we did also get out the RFQ for professional engineering services, and that got out on February 1st. That was the first date of distribution of the RFQ. The last date for the submittal of questions for that particular request for qualifications is February 22nd, 2013 at 4 o'clock. If any addenda are issued as necessary, that will be March 13th, 2013. The RFQ due date for submission will be March 22nd, 2013 at 2 p.m. The evaluations and competitive selection of the RFQs will be April 26, 2013. Anticipated town council approval would be May 7, 2013, with selected respondents negotiation to be mutually agreed upon, with town council approval. So with that, and we expect a number of submissions here. You know, the way we did that, that particular request for qualifications, we divided it up, looking for general town engineering services that would kind of serve as the town engineer, if you will. But we've also asked for traffic engineering services, qualifications for land surveying services, environmental engineering services, and civil engineering services, inspection services. And the way the RFQ is written, I would encourage you to go on the website, look at it, or I can provide copies. But basically, we indicated that it will depend on how many qualifications we receive. You know, we're not bound to, we want to put people on premium contracts, so we have the appropriate services we need for the projects that are coming up. So those were important items that we were able to get done, and we wanted to let you know about them. Another important item that we have talked about, this is what I mentioned to you earlier, I'm kind of covering some of these items that we talked about previously as we were talking cost recovery. This week I will be meeting with, on the 7th of February, with Atush Jafar of Palm Beach County Engineering. This is to discuss the traffic signal at Okeechobee and Beach Road. Now, as you know, I had talked to Simmons and White, one of the firms under contract with the county, about a possible piggyback, and in discussing with them and vetting the situation, one of the things they indicated is I have to meet with Atush because she's one of the folks who discusses these projects and helps you move forward through the process. So we're making progress on that, moving forward. We still have to do a negotiation on the banking services that you awarded to Wells Fargo. That's coming up. We're still working on town hall initiatives, just to let you know that. We'll be getting revised priorities. I do have a statement that I wanted to read to you from Lieutenant Combs. And this relates to an issue that's been coming up. We have a woman who's doing panhandling throughout the town. And she's popping up in a lot of areas, including one of our board members. She was one of our board members' garage, actually. So what Lieutenant Combs has said is he advises that anyone experiencing a stranger, parentheses, woman, asking for money or gas, etc., or even coming to their property to do so should call the sheriff's office at 688-3400 to let them know. He reminds us that it's not illegal to ask someone for money, and if there is no trespassing posted on the property, it is not illegal to knock on someone's door. What they can do is stop her, get the information, see if there's any kind of record, and then recommend a homeless shelter or whatever community resource that she may need. Apparently, she's been working in tandem with a male, and it's happened a number of times now. We've received a number of complaints to our office, so we're just trying to get ahead of this and make sure that we don't have a serious issue on our hands. The final item that I have for you relates to a request by the chairman of the Planning and Zoning Board. He has felt that members of Corning had missed a number of meetings, 5 to be exact, he was concerned about. We did do the analysis, and we did find that Mr. Corning has missed 5 consecutive meetings dating back to August 9, 2012, October 11, 2012, November 8, 2012, December 13, 2012, and January 10, 2013. Now, by virtue of your ordinance, I'm bringing this to your attention tonight because ordinance 2012-22, which creates the zoning board, subparagraph 5 states, the town council shall have the authority to remove any member of the planning and zoning board from his or her office for cause whenever, after due notice of a hearing at a regular or special meeting of the town council, the majority of the council votes for such removal. Cause for removal shall include absence from 5 consecutive board meetings without a valid excuse as determined by town council. I'm bringing this to your attention at the request of the chairman, so you can decide what you may want to do, but obviously it's clear that you need to have a due notice of a hearing at a regular meeting if you do want to consider that action. And with that, that is my report.
Okay. Comments by Council President.
Only that Lawrence is my appointee. And I don't want to go into too deeply because it's a private matter for him, but they did have issues with some health with one of their children, so I think if it's possible for us to see some leeway with that, I'd like to ask the council.
Okay. Well,
Mark, I got a couple questions. Did you get the questions from John Ryan as far as concerning the road maintenance bids?
Yes. Today was the deadline, and I didn't get it to you.
Okay, so, the other thing with the bids, there was 2 things. One thing I didn't like was there was a price quote on what the district charges us on the roads. That's over and done with, so we'll live with that. The other thing is the insurance required. Mark, was it 1 million or 2 million?
I think it was 1 million. I have to go back and check that.
Okay. The insurance required was 1 million, if that's correct. And the district, I think, has a maximum of 200,000. John could correct me if I'm wrong. Now, the way I'm reading that, if we don't change that, legally, I don't think we can waiver it for the district. If we put 1 million, then that's what it's got to be. So I think that would leave the district out of the loop. So I want the district to bid on this project because right now they're doing it cheaper than anybody has been able to do it in the past. And something tells me because their prices was put out on the open bidding process that the price is probably going to be cheaper than they've done it for us in the past. So I need some consensus on the 2 million that might keep the district out of the loop.
Well, if I can I address, just to answer Councilman Gerald's question, it is 1 million for public liability insurance. The issue with the dollar amount for the roadway mile, we did talk to our town attorney, but more importantly, we ran that by the OIG. And they had numerous people look at it in their office, and they indicated they saw no issue whatsoever with that. It doesn't impact the bid or anything. They indicated that it's fine to go forward.
So. You know, $1 million is really not a high figure. I carry more than that when I was doing work for the state of Florida, and all I was doing was herbiciding trees. I wasn't using heavy equipment, so.
I don't have a problem except the district. I wish John would speak on this because if they can't do $1 million, that leaves them out of the loop. So I have a problem with the district not being able to bid on this project.
Okay, John, Brian?
Yeah.
And Marcia.
John Ryan, 3508 A Road. I did address that in my comments to Mark on behalf of the district. As a public body under the state, we fall under the sovereign immunity statute subject to a $200,000 coverage without it going to the state legislature for a special bill. So that's the way that our coverage is structured. It's structured to cover the liability up to the point that sovereign immunity takes effect. I don't think there should be a problem, with the fact that as a public body we're, essentially limited to that liability before sovereign immunity kicks in. That's just the way public bodies work. And I would presume that the town's insurance would be structured similarly. That's the way the cookie crumbles.
Mr. Mayor, I would be interested in Mike's opinion on the subject, but it would seem to me that we're creating two classes of bidders by to allow the district to do this and not to allow other people to do it. And I think that by reducing our liability coverage to only 200,000, that we would definitely be putting the town out there. If it were the district and there was a problem, they're saying they're only limited to 200, and if we go ahead and change it so as to accommodate the district, now we're stuck with, if they don't turn out to be the bidder, with a regular contractor who's only got $200,000, which is a minimum amount, considering they're going to be working on the roads and people are driving on the roads all the time. So,
Any thoughts on that, Mike?
I think we've got to have the bidding. All people have to meet the same requirements. If the issue with the insurance, today's the day that they could provide the information. If we're able to do an addendum to address those issues, we can do that. But we can't. We're not. I think we've got to be careful not to structure the bid process one way or the other. I'm willing to. I can look at the issue. I'm not sure how sovereign immunity kind of plays in this, but I understand what you're saying, that they have it for negligence and whatnot. But again, I don't want to put words in their mouth about what they can or cannot do. First, let me review this with town management. We have till was the 15th to provide additional information or clarifications out there, and maybe we can maybe get some more information and provide some idea. And at the end of the day, ultimately, it's going to be the town council's decision whether there's an issue with the process and you want to award a bid or whatnot. We can go over that as it moves forward. But I'd be hesitant to create a different class. We want to lower the requirements across the board. That's something that I think, if that's the request, we can look at, but maybe with our carriers, see what their recommendations are on insurance coverage too.
Rob?
Mark, our insurance coverage on our public utilities guy, what's that?
I'd have to double check that.
Is it 2 million? I mean, is it $1 million?
I think it is, but I can't say for sure. I want to tell you, I'll get back to you and let you know by email or whatever, but when the bid was put together, we looked at a number of examples and everything, and I think the $1 is a pretty fair figure, so a fair figure in terms of what they need to cover in terms of the liability. It pops up in both documents and all kinds of services. So.
Well, I find it hard to believe that you don't know how much insurance our contractor that's working for us is paying, and I find it hard to believe that he's got $1 million worth of coverage. Now, that's just my opinion, but I'm sure you'll let us know what his coverage is. Because if he's got less than $1 million coverage, then I think that would fall in the same category. Here we've got a contractor working for us, and he's not required to have $1 million coverage. I'll end my conversation by saying this. We pay assessments to the water control district. I used to say we get things for free. We don't get them for free. We pay assessments. Our assessments is $135 per acre. Out in the acreage, it's $400 to $500 for an acre and a quarter. So even our assessments are good. If we pay the district anything, they work for us. Okay, that money is recycled back into our town. It keeps the district from raising our assessments. It helps them with their budget. We hire a private contractor to come in here and grade our roads and trim our hedges. That money does not stay in this town. That benefits the